Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Waking up during the middle of the night is so annoying and frustrating. There are a few different angles you can use to come up with solutions for your middle of the night awakenings. Here they are. You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 201, When You Wake Up During the Night and 3 Ways to Fix It. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hi, my friend, and welcome to another episode. I'm so happy you're here today. How is your thinking framework working to help you age at an elite level? If you think through things in a way that serves you, you can simultaneously be non-overwhelmed and age at an elite level, create an exceptional future, and enjoy yourself right now. If you watched the lessons and filled out the workbook that went along with last week's episode, you're already pointed in the right direction. Today, we're going to talk about waking up during the night. Annoying, right? I've always been pretty intolerant of not sleeping well, so I get super annoyed when I wake up before I'm ready and I can't get back to sleep. I'm not a sleep expert, but I learned some interesting things from someone who is. She's a world-class sleep expert who leads the Sleep, Eating, and Affect Laboratory at UCSF. Her name is Ashley Mason. She does what's called CBTI, or Cognitive Behavioral Therapy for Insomnia. CBTI is incredibly effective, way more effective than any other therapy type modality. The right CBTI therapist can fix almost anyone's insomnia. So if you or someone you know suffers from insomnia, it can probably be remedied with CBTI, which is way cool. Not sleeping well is an all-day problem with big, potentially life-threatening effects. Ashley Mason explains that there are 2 systems at work to get your body to produce sleep. She's the leading expert in this field, and I am most definitely not, but I'm going to be so presumptuous as to add one and say that there are 3 systems that we can work through to fix sleep in general, but today we're going to focus on middle of the night awakenings because people ask me about that a lot. What she says is that there are 2 systems that seem like they would be intertwined, but they're actually independent of one another. One is sleep pressure, which comes from adenosine building up in your brain throughout the day. The other is circadian biology, melatonin production and such. When you're on a normal sleep and wake cycle, those 2 do line up, but one is not dependent on the other, which I think is super interesting. So you can manipulate either of those 2 systems to produce sleep, which cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia does. The third system that I'm going to add is what I'll call the psychological system. This is a big part of why people wake up during the middle of the night, and CBTI has specific interventions to help with psychological sleep impediments. So I'm including it as another avenue to use to create improvement. Sound good? I believe that thinking of sleep problems in these 3 different categories will help you come up with better solutions or ideas of what to try. I always love having what I believe is a clear and useful way to think through problems in a logical and orderly way. And obviously, if there are obvious reasons you're being woken up, then fix those things first. Shut off the power to your neighbor's house. Disable their car engine. Put your dog up for adoption. I mean, whatever it takes. Or get earplugs and a white noise machine, but that's not as fun. Okay, let's start with manipulating system 3.5. You know that during the perimenopausal years, your hormones start having some wild swings. Those fluctuations can absolutely mess with your sleep. Progesterone is the main one I think of because it's so important for sleep, and often just getting progesterone levels steady and back to physiological levels is enough. But fluctuations of all of the other levels also cause sleep disturbances, especially if sudden drops in estrogen are causing night sweats. So working with an experienced expert to get your hormone levels back in the friend zone can be a game changer. I'm a fan of bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. I see its effects daily, but that doesn't mean that you have to be. You should decide whatever feels good to you, but I do think you deserve to feel good in your body and enjoy this time of your life. If you're curious about the basics of what bioidentical hormone replacement therapy even is, I have a super cheap Udemy course you can take to learn enough to see if you think it's worth pursuing. I could happily talk about it forever, but that's all I'll say for today. Especially if your sleep problems seemed to come out of nowhere in your 40s, your hormone levels are likely playing a role. Maybe a leading role, maybe the deuteragonist. Do you know what that term is? You're smart, so you probably do, but I had never heard of it before. I've been reading a book about writing fiction, which I've really loved, even though I don't write fiction and I don't really plan to. Plus, it's written by someone who lives in Taylorsville, Utah, which is where I grew up, so I feel like I should know her, even though I don't. Anyway, I learned about a deuteragonist. That's the second main character after the protagonist. But however they rank, I'm sure your hormones are playing some kind of role in the nightly drama of your sleep. Okay, so let's backtrack to system number 1, sleep pressure. Adenosine causes what we call sleep pressure. It builds up and builds up throughout the day, as it's supposed to, until we feel the unmistakable siren song of our pillow at night. You know what that feels like, right? A lot of what cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia works on is properly building up enough sleep pressure to be able to produce sleep at bedtime, especially in the early weeks of therapy. Definitely check out the links I'll put in the show notes for CBTI if your problem is falling asleep. I think of sleep pressure as more involved with being able to get to sleep in the first place, but that's not all it is. You want to have just the right amount of adenosine pressure that you can easily fall asleep and stay asleep when bedtime comes around. Some interventions that will help you build up that sleep pressure are to not have any caffeine at all, including from decaf coffee after 11 o'clock a.m. I'm sure you've probably heard before that caffeine doesn't wake you up. It just blocks the adenosine receptors from receiving adenosine. So it prevents you from feeling tiredness. And caffeine can stick around on those adenosine receptors of your brain for longer than you think. So a caffeine cutoff of 11 o'clock a.m. will make sure you get enough sleep pressure at bedtime. Another intervention during treatment for insomnia is to not allow yourself to take any naps. If you don't have sleep problems, they're not inherently bad, but taking a nap deflates the balloon of that buildup of adenosine pressure, and it might prevent you from having enough sleep pressure at bedtime, especially if it's late in the afternoon or if it's longer than 45 minutes. Something that I haven't heard sleep experts like Ashley talk about, but has been shown to increase adenosine pressure in a good way, is exercise. Demanding that your body do some physically exhausting stuff during the day can help you feel appropriately tired and ready for sleep at bedtime, but you shouldn't exercise too close to bedtime. Sleep pressure. It's a good thing when it happens in an appropriate amount and culminates at the correct time of night. Learning how to manipulate it to your advantage can help you get better sleep. All right, the second system we can work through is the circadian rhythm system. This is a lot of what you hear about around, quote, sleep hygiene, and it's important. Our bodies definitely operate in rhythms or cycles. We have ultradian rhythms, circadian rhythms, and infradian rhythms. I find them very fascinating. Ultradian rhythms are about 90 minutes long. When we're operating at a high level, we still need some kind of break in focus or a physical break or other positive disruption every 90 minutes to keep us going. Without a break of some kind every 90 minutes, our performance starts to wane. Infradian rhythms are different lengths longer than 24 hours, most commonly the approximately 28-day infradian rhythm called the menstrual cycle. Life is better when you work with and respect the power of these natural rhythms. Circadian biology is fascinating because there are optimal times of day for all kinds of things. Obviously, we're made to sleep when it's dark and work when it's light. Our natural production of melatonin is a big asset to our ability to sleep well, and that's affected by light. Light that gets into our eyes and even light that lands on our skin. I'm sure you probably know by now not to let blue light or even white light into your eyes an hour or two before bedtime. Light is extremely important to be able to sleep. It's also possible that you're waking up in the night because there's light in your room from an alarm clock, thermostat, air purifier, smoke detector, Teddy Ruxpin. If so, turn those off or cover them with black electrical tape and use blackout curtains. Streetlights, headlights, moonlight, early summer sunlight, those can all wake you up too. Use an eye mask if you find it comfortable, which I don't. Just make sure that you're in darkness all night long. Next time you wake up in the middle of the night, have a look around and notice if you see any lights at all, no matter how small, and make a plan to remove them all the next day. As it turns out, there are optimal times for our circadian rhythm to do all kinds of things. Exercise, take medication, eat, learn, work, etc. It's very interesting. So if you're waking up in the middle of the night, it could be related to the times of day that you did things like take your medication earlier that day. Generally, the more consistent you are, the better. You can for sure get the circadian rhythm aspect of your sleep on your side by being as boring and predictable as possible. Being boring produces a lot of great health results. Waking up at the same time every day, getting natural sunlight the first thing every morning, eating at the same times of day every day, even pooping at the same time of day is helpful. Sheldon Cooper was onto something with his scheduling his bowel movements to operate like a German train schedule. An important part of our circadian biology that really helps us sleep well is temperature control or thermoregulation. It's important that our core body temperature drop while we're asleep. So making sure you're in a cool room can definitely help you stay asleep. It could be that you're waking up during the night because it's too hot for you to sleep deeply, especially if your progesterone levels are lower than they used to be, so you don't sleep as well in general, and your estrogen levels are fluctuating. Rapid drops in estrogen levels can cause hot flashes and night sweats. The optimal sleep temperature is 60 to 67 degrees, so do what you can to get your room about that temperature. There are awesome companies now that make smart devices to control the temperature of your bed instead of your whole room or whole house. I've wanted one for years, but they're pretty expensive, like $2,000 for a mattress cover, so I haven't gotten that far yet. But they're great, and I still have one on my wish list. Even without a bed cooling device, there's a lot you can do to prevent waking up due to suboptimal body temperature. I hate being hot at night. Well, I hate being hot in general, and I really hate being hot at night. But I can't fall asleep if my feet are cold. So for the past 10 years or so, I've been falling asleep with a cheap little small heating pad on my feet for the first 15 minutes or so, and I think it's fabulous. It warms up just my feet for about 15 minutes, and I fall asleep and the rest of me stays cool. Then when I heard Dr. Mason say to do that during her Best Sleep Secrets, I was like, aha, I already figured that one out. But something she mentioned as especially important for women who wake up during the night is to never use a duvet or a comforter or a bedspread. Only 100% cotton blankets because they're more breathable. I have a rotating list of items that we don't need to get into that I use on my bed depending on the season, but I immediately switched to a 100% cotton blanket when I learned that because it was the spring, so that was the right time for my plan. And so far, it's been really great. There are a few other things you can do to appropriately lower your body temperature, like take a sauna or a hot bath or hot shower a couple of hours before bedtime, and wear loose-fitting, breathable sleepwear. Also, caffeine and alcohol both jack up your sleep in other ways, but they can increase your core body temperature too, as does eating too close to bedtime. For at least 100 reasons, you shouldn't be eating within a few hours of bedtime, 4 hours if possible, one of which is that it raises your core body temperature. We've discussed some of the other 99 reasons in other episodes. Lastly, there's the psychological system. Sometimes you wake up in the night and ruminate or worry. Cognitive behavioral therapy says that if you spend a lot of time awake in the middle of the night to get out of bed and do something marginally interesting and non-productive, like color in a coloring book or watch an episode of a ho-hum TV show. You don't have to do something you hate, but it should not be something that you love or look forward to or is valuable or productive or stimulating, like social media or YouTube, or work or housework, anything like that. The reason for this is that it's really important that you teach yourself that your bed is for sleeping, not for the torture of staring up at the ceiling for hours, or for watching TV or working or doom scrolling or any other type of scrolling. Not for checking the news or sports scores or crafting or eating or party planning or building Lego sets or doing your taxes. There's something psychologically important about knowing in your body that when you lie down in bed, it's to sleep, not to learn knife throwing techniques or to refine your thinking about tariffs. If you don't frequently spend large amounts of time awake in bed in the middle of the night, I like what my coach instructor Brian Johnson suggests, to see those times as opportunities to meditate. When you're awake and would rather not be, you can seize the opportunity to get some extra meditation minutes in. Practice getting better at whatever you normally do to meditate. Focus on your breath and nothing else. See your thoughts flow past you like leaves drifting down a stream. Go through a guided meditation script that you have memorized. Whatever. It's a useful way to buff up your meditation muscles. You can also try a body scan/relaxation where you focus all of your attention on tightening up one body part and then letting it completely relax, and then moving on to the next body part. Usually starting with your feet, and then your ankles, then your lower legs, etc. until you get to your face. That's a great way to practice maintaining focus, but also feeling pleasantly relaxed. I'm weird, as you already know, and somewhere along my journey of life, I developed the habit of doing something similar, tighten and relax, and then imagining that body part melts or dissolves down into the bed, and I slowly stop existing. I find it helpful. If you can't control your thoughts and you always wake up worrying, there are 2 CBTI techniques that are usually not introduced till several weeks into treatment that you might find useful. If you wake up and spend a lot of time worrying about all kinds of things, try this. Scheduled worry time. You can keep a pen and paper next to your bed if you're worried. You'll forget what to worry about. What you do is schedule a time every day that is absolutely set in stone. During that time, you worry about all of your life's problems. So keep a running list. Whenever you start to worry or think of something worth worrying about, write it down on your list and know for sure that you will indeed worry about that later. You're not ignoring it, you're just scheduling it. At your next specified scheduled worry session, then when 4:15 comes around or whatever time you set, get out your list and really do a thorough job of worrying about all of the items on your list. It's a good way to dismiss worry thoughts with confidence, knowing that they will be dealt with. This could also work for just to-do items. Sometimes we have things that we don't necessarily need to ruminate or wring our hands over. We just don't want to forget to do something important. Write it down somewhere you're 100% sure you'll come back to it later. Then you can dismiss it and go back to melting until you don't exist. The second CBTI technique is for people who wake up worrying about the same thing every time. For them, it's useful to schedule several 15 or 30-second time periods every day to write down how much they believe that thought that they worry about in the middle of the night. Ashley Mason gave this example of a real patient of hers, and I think it's a perfect example, so I'll just repeat it. She had a patient who had multiple sclerosis who would wake up every night thinking, I'm never going to be able to make it through the day. That was her one worry thought every night. She sounds like a wonderful and strong woman who had more to deal with than most people. Doing everyday things that the rest of us take for granted was extremely difficult for her. Dr. Mason had her write down like 6 times a day or something how much she believed the thought, I'm never going to make it through the day. In the middle of the night, she believed it 10 out of 10. In the early morning, she believed it 9 out of 10. And every single day, as the day progressed, she believed that thought less and less until her last check-in at the end of the day when she didn't believe it at all because she did, in fact, make it through the day. And more often than not, it wasn't as bad as she was anticipating. Doing that exercise taught her that she didn't actually believe the thought, and realizing that helped her get out of its grip in the middle of the night until eventually it faded away as her reason to wake up. Your worry thought might be different, but doing some kind of thought work several times throughout the day can help you get a better handle on it so that you can control it instead of the other way around. It might take some time, and you might even need someone else to help you, but conscious and intentional work throughout the day really can dissolve a recurrent worry thought that's keeping you up at night. Don't just try to dismiss it. Work with it. There's always a ton more to talk about sleep, but I hope understanding these 3 separate sleep systems can help give you an idea of how to tackle your middle of the night awakenings. Your hormone levels, the sleep pressure system, the circadian rhythm system, and the psychological system. I know it can be so frustrating to want to sleep and to know how important sleep is to your overall well-being and to still wake up in the middle of the night. If you struggle with sleep more than a little bit and you've already tried everything you can think of, consider seeing a cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia provider or listening to one describe what they do and then following the steps of the treatment to the letter, either via an app or there's a book describing the approach. I'll put links in the show notes to Rachel Mason and to the name of the book she recommends and a couple of apps that work this way. She says the only problem with the DIY approach is that people usually think that their sleep problem is different or a special case, so they don't follow it to the letter. But if you do follow it with exactness, it'll work. The main advantage of working with a provider is that you're more likely to follow the program precisely, which is why it's more likely to work. Interesting. Thank you so much for being here today. You are awesome. Next week, we're going to talk about how to make your healthy choices automatic. Until then, use the 3 sleep systems to stay asleep all night long and don't be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.